All right, welcome everyone. Oh, hold on, let me turn on my light. There we go. All right, Michel, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Michel, can you hear me? Michel, I see him, but I can't hear him. Hi everyone, this is Morbid Symptoms, Notes from the Interregnum, and it's the end of the world as we know it with Michel Bauwens, and we just need to figure out our audio here. Let me text him. Can you hear me? Hello, Michel.
Oh. wait, not yet.
Okay, I can hear you, so and I can
wrong?
see you. I don't know why I'm so dark here.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I cannot hear you.
Uh-oh. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm on here. Let's see. I can hear you and I can see you. Let me check my audio. Sorry, everybody. Just give us a minute.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Mute mic.
A speaker.
Mute mic.
Yeah. The speakers. I don't know. If anybody's there on YouTube, if you can let me know if you can hear me. I can hear Michael, but he can't hear me, or Michel, but he can't hear me. Let's see. Audio. Can you hear me now? Hello. Can you hear me now? Uh-oh. Yeah, I can hear you. Oh gosh. Okay. I can stage. Hello? Sorry. Can you check your? Okay,
1, 2, 3.
Yes. So I can hear you.
And
you
can hear me.
Can see you.
Yeah, I'm going to my audio session studio effects.
Hold on. Sorry, everyone. Let's see. Before we could always hear each other.
Clicking on the mic thing. Microphone access.
Hello?
Arc.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello. If anybody's out there, can you text me? Can you comment, especially in YouTube, if you can hear
Just
me?
a moment, because when I'm on that page, I don't see you. So coming back.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, what can we do?
I don't know.
Should I maybe try a reboot on my side?
Um,
It'll take 2-3 minutes.
yeah, please.
So, okay, I close this session. I do a reboot and I come back.
Okay. Yeah, because I can hear you. All right. Bye. Sorry, everyone. We're having some technical difficulties. Can anybody hear me? I see that there's some people watching. Can people hear me? I don't know, because my camera, it says it should be working. I don't know why not. Okay, thank you, at Lurley. So good. So it's on his end then. Okay. So sorry, everyone. Michel, I could hear Michel and see Michel, but he couldn't hear me. So he's going to reboot his system and come back on, and hopefully then he can hear me. Thanks for letting me know, because yeah. Anyway, so sorry about that. He's going to come back on in a couple of minutes, and then we will hopefully be able to hear each other. So sorry about that, and I'm just going to drop back down here and wait for him to come back on, and hopefully he can hear me. Oh, can you hear me?
No, I'm not hearing you. So let me.
I don't
let
know.
me put the mic in. Who knows that maybe the sound comes out.
Yeah, sorry.
When I have my thing on.
Okay, let's see. All right.
Hello.
Hi, Michel.
No, nothing.
No,
Nothing.
Well, this is a bummer. I don't know. Yeah. Hold
I'm
on.
at 88, 90, 94.
I got.
Let's do
a
mute
message
and unmute.
That
no, 1, 2, 3.
People could hear us both. Let's see.
Well, People
Okay.
can hear both of us, but
Yeah.
it doesn't help if I can't hear you. Oh boy.
I don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much don't know what to do.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna.
There's a settings. I
Yeah.
click on the settings.
Yeah. Audio.
Camera, audio. I click on audio.
Yeah, and your speakers.
Microphone array.
Yeah. Do the speaker. Okay. Sorry, he can't hear me.
Speaker.
Let's see.
Echo cancellation reduce.
Let's see. I'm going to tell you.
I don't see anything that I can do that.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Hold on. Do speaker
Okay,
test.
I do it again without my mic.
Do speaker test. Oops, that's not. Oh, sorry. That's not the private chat.
No, I don't hear anything. I'm really sorry.
Speaker test.
Do a speaker
In
test.
StreamYard.
Okay.
Audio
In StreamYard.
settings.
So I click on
So everyone.
audio. Speaker test. Yes, I click on test.
Yeah.
Playing.
Let's see if he hears it.
It's playing. I click on communication speakers. Speakers will take audio default.
Can you hear it?
It's on default
good.
now. Let me do
Great
communications. Music. 1, 2, 3. Does that make any difference? No, I still don't hear you. And okay, I go to speakers. Does that make any difference?
No,
I'm still not hearing you.
Hold on. Hold on,
stereo audio.
Okay, can you hear me? No? Okay, well, this seems to be something on Michel's end. So let's see. I'm going to see if I can help him figure it out or what.
I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Are you sure?
Hallelujah.
Whoops.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, yay.
No, I'm not hearing you. Okay, let me do communications. Test.
Yeah.
Can you talk now?
Hi.
I'm not hearing anything.
Okay, if you switch the, okay. I'm forgetting if I talk to him, he
back to
can't hear me.
default.
Of course. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh my God.
I can hear you. Oh my God! Thank you.
You had your window muted.
Oh, I didn't do anything.
And you're the technical guy. I love it.
No, I'm not a technical guy at all.
Okay. Well, you sound, some of your stuff sounds really like peer to peer and this and that, and
yeah, it's,
I'm just like,
it's all part of
my God.
Oh God.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that you can mute the window now, which I don't know if it's helpful or not, but you can do it.
Yeah, but I didn't push anything. I don't know how it got there. But okay, now.
Okay, so now we're just going to take a breath, Michel.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm exhausted. Let's
take a moment. But I'm getting a good laugh there because I was thinking
I know what I'm going to do.
Because we've done this before.
I'm going to get a bottle of water.
Yeah, get a bottle of water. Take a moment. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Michel had his tab muted, so but we figured it out. So sorry. He's going to go take a moment and get a bottle of water, and then we will start we're gonna start the show in earnest. So sorry about that. Oh my goodness.
Okay, you have a faithful audience.
Well,
and let's just do it. They've waited long enough.
So hey, Michel. This is Michel Bauwens. He's awesome. He always makes his glass is always half full. It's the end of the world as we know it. But Michel is feeling all right. You know, he has some positivity in there. It's going to be a rough patch, but you know, he sees the light he sees at the end of the tunnel is not a train coming in the opposite direction. Anyway. Michel, before we get into what I would like to do is that, especially, I'm so glad that you're able to come on because I've been so mired in the minutia of late, in the particularities. Let's see. So it's nice to spend some time with someone who's good at zooming out and looking at things in kind of the longue durée and cyclically, so you don't get into the idea that we're in some sort of totally unique cluster F of who knows what. But if you can, just tell, because as I recall, and now it's also left me because of our technical difficulty stress, but I'm sure it'll come back if I just keep talking, that when you look at things, you're looking at the interaction and maybe the hierarchy battles between what you call the commons, the market, and the state. And that you see perhaps we're in a transition where the state and the market have gone kind of haywire and have forgotten all about the commons, and maybe the commons objectively, if not subjectively, are raising. So please, just if you could start off just saying what approach you bring to the end of this world.
End of the world.
Not the world, but this world. Or as we know it. If you could just say a bit about the approach and how that distinguishes from maybe people like I don't know, Mark Carney or hardcore Marxist-Leninists or people who think the technology or the market will save us, etc. If you could just kind of give us an idea of your approach, and then we'll get into some more of the specifics of specific aspects of how the world seems to be degenerating, but also then, of course, something else coming up.
Yes. So I guess a useful perspective to take, and that's the one I'm trying to take, is to look at the history of the human world as a history of coordination mechanisms. And, with every coordination mechanism goes a particular hierarchical structure, a distribution of the surplus. And so it's really important what coordination engine you're using, because that will determine how your society is organized. And so you can look at history that way. So in the most simplest way, like the most abstracting way, you could say there's a first wave, which is kinship-based, tribal, clan, tribe, organized societies, based on kinship. And they use commoning and gifting as coordination mechanisms. So what's the difference? Commoning is you exchange with a whole. So basically, the hunter or the gatherer, they come back from hunting and gathering, and they're not selling it. They're it's for the group, however that group is defined. Could be a small or big family, but you exchange with the whole. So for example, think about the Amish, the barnyards, barn raising. So whenever a new couple marries, the whole Amish community will help build their house.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't owe anything to anybody in particular. It's for the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, when a Linux programmer, writes a free software piece, he puts it in the Linux Commons. It's it's open and free software. He doesn't expect anything back from any particular person, but he also benefits from making the system better. Give a brick, get a house. So this is one logic that you can find in the first tens of thousands of years of human history.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is gifting. So the first one is called technically communal shareholding. The second is called equality matching, and it's kind of counterintuitive. But when you give in a gift economy, you actually expect something back.
Mm-hmm.
Not directly like of equal value, like in a market, but you do expect something back. When you give something for Christmas to somebody, you expect that person to give you something as well, or the next year. And so the way Kojin Karatani imagines the shift, and I think this is largely correct. So first, communal shareholding was the dominant mode, but once you get settled communities, they have to keep the peace. Then you start gifting to create social relationships and to avoid conflict. Create good feelings all around you, because now you can't flee anymore, right? You're not a nomad. You have to stay
Mm-hmm.
and deal with these neighbors, whoever they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some moment in history, it breaks down. We get conquest. We weren't there to see how exactly that happened, but we can imagine that.
And Michel, do you distinguish between expansion and conquest?
Well, yeah, with conquest, I mean very specifically like dominating another group.
Okay.
Because what's important in that is that it no longer, you can't do gifting and commoning between a conquered and a conquering people, right? So then you get a third modality, and that's called authority ranking. And authority ranking is really what you understand under a tributary mechanism, feudalism, taxation. Is basically the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the state is stable enough and creates security, and then you get market exchange, right? So, but here, if you look at history, I think you can actually recognize two blocks. One is the large block, which is tribal, kinship-based, gifting, commoning era, and a market state civilization era. So civilization defined as class society, right?
And I just want to throw this in there about and I'm assuming technology plays a role in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the basic idea, I think, is to think of you have matter and energy, and information is what allows humanity to mobilize them. And the media, the technology, is what allows you to do that. So, for example, there's no civilization before writing, and once you have writing, you see civilization. So
can you unpack that? Can you unpack that a bit more? The centrality of
yeah.
So I
For
guess
example,
would it be fair to use a kind of a maybe a vulgar evolutionary analogy that the invention and kind of of writing
Yeah.
was like a very was an important point
Yeah,
in
because once you have writing, right,
development.
and not everybody can write,
Mm-hmm.
then you already have like a layer of the population which can abstract the knowledge from other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they can coordinate. For example, the temple societies,
Mm-hmm.
right, in Mesopotamia, is the temple manages the rice surplus, right? And then James Scott, in his really interesting book called Against the Grain, he makes a very specific argument that civilizations only arose where there was countable agriculture. So
Mm-hmm.
not just agriculture, but rice or grain or barley, because it grows out of the ground. And so basically you can see it, you can count it, you can tax it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
You can
so,
weigh
and
it. Yeah.
yeah, and you can imagine, and I think this is,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think, that like Minoa and the Harappan civilization, where you definitely have agriculture, but you don't see walls.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably that there wasn't an exploitative situation from the beginning. It started as like a normal thing. Is like, we're a village, now we are farming, so we get more productive, we have more
Mm-hmm.
surplus, so let's have this building where we can keep the surplus rice
Mm-hmm.
for when things get bad, right? It's only after. And so actually it may be externally caused, because this is one of the theories, is that, so imagine you have a rich agricultural area, right? And they have more and more surplus, and so they start building nicer buildings, but you still have pastoral nomads, like 1,000 kilometers away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as long as everything is okay, everything is okay. But let's say there's a climate change, there's a drying up. So suddenly you have a drying up, and they're starving. The nomads are starting to starve because their animals are dying. At the same time, the agriculture areas are also weakened. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, these pastoral people can say, well, why we need to take that over, otherwise we don't have food, right? So it's,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of imaginable that class society was created in such a way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's enough for one people to do it somewhere, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it cascades everywhere, because now, oh wow, look what happened to them, we have to defend ourselves.
Or compete, yeah. And
Yeah,
I don't know if this is if this is, maybe I'm getting too much in it, but when you mentioned about the significance, of course, of the creation of writing,
yeah,
and
so
then
writing
recording, and then
writing
that creates
crafts
a
and
barrier
carving
between the
crafts.
people who can do that and people who can't. I'm also thinking that, and I'm maybe this is in all the and I'm not as familiar with Judaism and Islam, but I'm thinking even with Christianity, in the beginning there was the word, yeah. And so when you have
Right.
the word and you have the language, then you have the people who
Yeah.
have that special knowledge, and then so it is. So I think in
Yeah,
terms of
before
the
you have shamans,
differentiation.
right?
So what I
You
want
have,
what I want to mention is
yeah,
not just the economic mechanical but instrumentalities of writing
yeah. No,
and
no,
being
no,
able,
no. Yeah,
but also just the the more kind of
yeah,
imaginary symbolic
yeah,
aspect of it, and then the people who can seem to control that, who are able to interpret
yeah,
and to have that power, that would be a
yeah,
kind of magic, a kind of cultural magic,
yeah.
I'd
Yes,
imagine.
yeah. So there's an amazing book about it, and it's very hard to read. So it's not like I recommend it to everybody, because like I'm actually struggling with it. It's called From Modes of Production to the Resurrection of the Body
Hmm.
by Ben Suriano.
Okay.
And he's a Marxist that takes religion very seriously.
Hmm.
And so he says the village commune, right? It's it's kind of the first time that people can see that there is growth.
Hmm.
Like if you are in a hunter gathering, you kind of live off nature, and you have
Hmm.
this kind of permanent now, right? Once
Hmm.
you start farming, and you can build stocks, then the imagination changes that, oh wow, humanity can improve, right? And okay, then it becomes complicated. I'm not, and I'm sure I fully
Okay.
understand what you're trying to say,
We can
but
we can put a pin in that, but we've
yeah.
gotten up through agriculture, settled
I
agriculture.
just want to say that the resurrection of the body for him is the imagination of the village commune, that we can improve, the body of humanity. So like anti-entropic thinking becomes a thing, and then class societies kind of hijack it for the benefit of a minority. So that's kind of his thesis.
Okay.
But okay. But it's a very interesting book. Anyway.
Well, I will try to read it, and maybe we can come back on for like a Michel Terra book club. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and you can help me understand that. We can invite Ben. He can explain it to us. That would be great.
Ooh, there you go.
It's a very important book because he opened my eyes to the legitimacy of anti-entropic thinking, right? Which is, this is the main problem with the left. The left used to be anti-entropic. Marx shared the dream of the liberals that technology would create.
Let's stop for just a second. Could you just define briefly what anti-entropic thinking you mean by that for those of us who aren't?
Yeah. So there's this idea, what is it? The second law of thermodynamics. That whenever you create order, you create disorder, and that everything that's ordered is destined to be disordered. And so that can create like a very pessimistic outlook of life, because whatever we do is will always go back to chaos, right? There's another view, which is to say, well, actually, if you really look at the history of matter, life, and human culture, it's not entropic, it's anti-entropic. There's more complexity over time. There's definitely a force in the universe which is actually creating more order rather than less, right? And so you could see Marx as an anti-entropic thinker. He was definitely thinking of anti-entropic, but the current left, because they became conscious of natural limits, like degrowth. And I'm not saying they're wrong objectively in terms of that we're overshooting, but the result it has on the culture of the left is that it's becoming an entropic movement, right? It's lost it's a hope in the future. And so it has this negativity. And then the right, like Elon Musk, they're the only ones saying, fuck that, let's go with spaceships and start mining Mars. And because they do that, they actually capture this kind of
imagination and
right. Once we give up communism as a dream of the future, the left is in a problem, because they're the ones stressing limits and degrowth. And
anti-human, actually, in many ways.
Yeah, anti-speciesism, which is you shouldn't put the humans first, and so this is a very important thing to think about, and Ben Soriano helps me think about that. But
okay, and I'm sorry that I got us off on this tangent, because you were telling us a nice overview, and you had gotten to the established agriculture, and then the development of, I guess it'd be empire.
Firstly, these societies like Minoa and Harappan, where you don't see walls, so they seem to have been more harmonious. And then suddenly you get Assyria and Babylon. You get very cruel class societies that are based on conquest and cruelty. And I can give you another example, and maybe later we can talk a bit about China. So I'm kind of doing my China turn, and so I'm reading about the legists. It's one of the intellectual traditions in China, and it's a book called The Law and the Code, The Law and the Numbers. And it's absolutely horrifying, because all these people who were working for the first emperor of China, the Qin or whatever, the Qin, I don't know how to pronounce it, the Qin,
I always say
Uh,
Qing, but I have no idea if that's right.
okay,
Obviously, I'm
yeah.
not
Well,
Chinese.
so let's say the Qin, the Qin Empire.
Qing dynasty, yeah.
They, they were of an absolute cruelty. Like they literally say, like, how can we keep the people subjugated and poor so that we can fund the state and the army, like literally, right?
Mm,
And then but they win doing that, thinking that way. They win, but they only last 15 years
mm,
because they cannot keep their legitimacy because of this cruelty, right?
mm,
And then you get Confucius, and then the Han Empire integrates Confucianism
mm,
into the new empire, and that lasts for 500 years.
mm,
And so, can I introduce here a very important dialectic, which is that between extractive regime and purification engine. So, whenever you invent a new extraction regime, so you go from hunter gathering to agriculture, you
mm,
go from agriculture to industry, you go
mm,
from industry to cognitive and AI and internet stuff, right? So, whenever you do that, it's very costly for humanity. Uh, agriculture, agricultural empires destroy the tribes.
mm,
Industry destroys the peasantry,
mm,
and AI may well destroy everybody, right? So that's
mm,
the extraction regime. This is how you get that value
mm,
out.
mm,
But the purification engine is how society then uh, reacts against that and
mm,
invents ways to overcome that pure extractivism
mm,
and to make it livable, if you like, to civilize civilization. And so that is what Kojin Karatani calls mode D. So mode A
mm,
is gifting and commoning, mode B is the state, mode C is the market, and mode D is the permanent attempt by humanity to recreate mode A at a higher level of complexity. Because
mm,
that's what we want. We want to have convivial societies, and civilization doesn't let us do that.
mm. Well, here's
Uh,
the issue. Here's the thing I want to ask about that, because that sounds very communist, but you would say it's
yeah,
communist. So I would ask you what the difference is between what you, like the in terms of the long durée. What's the difference between
yeah,
what you just said and what um, a
yeah.
Stalinist
So
dialectical a Stalinist would say? Yeah.
yeah,
Look at the
yeah.
overview of the history, and then second of all, three things. That sounds functionalist, and I don't want to say functionalism is a bad word, but it used to be that if you said somebody was their theory was functionalist, that for some reason
That
always
was
had a
bad.
negative
Yeah,
connotation. And third, if we're externalizing civilization from people, don't we get into the problem that what makes up a civilization if not for people? So we have this production. Yeah, there could be the side that we want to get along. We want to have good relations. We want to have cooperation. We want to have, all that stuff. But yet we also produce
yeah,
competition, strife. Um,
yeah,
with the psychoanalytics would say we always are going to have the death drive that's going to be
yeah.
pushing us to
Right.
in self-destructive
Yeah, yeah.
ways, and that to
I,
pretend that we can get
I
past
am.
that could be part of the problem. So those three
Yeah.
things.
Because so that's why
What do you want to say
I
to that?
describe it as a tension, right?
Mm,
Because I don't know if we can get there or not. But I do know that if you only have extraction, life becomes unlivable.
mm.
And so then you get a purification engine, which is utopian and idealist,
Mm-hmm.
and which can
Which
also
also
create.
has a lot of enemies, Michel.
Yes, but
Yeah.
so the thing is that it historically it always ended up with some kind of a compromise.
Mm,
And so it's kind of like the degenerative alliance of the ruling class and the regenerative alliance. But so far they never last. The
mm,
regeneration never lasts forever either, right? So
mm-hmm.
you and I actually think there's a dialectic between them, which is, that's what I call the pulsation of the commons. So let me, okay,
Please.
because you asked many questions. So the
Sorry.
commons is a shared resource which is created, maintained, protected by a community or a group of stakeholders with their own regulations. And that makes it different from private property and from state property. So you have indigenous commons, which are sacral. They're like the god owns the mountains, so we don't touch it. The imperial commons, so commons are respected in imperial systems. They're like the social security system. So a medieval farmer, has his own plot of land, has common land with his village, and has land to work for the Lord. They coexist. I was reading about the Ottomans. So they had these soldiers who believed in the Holy War, right? So they conquer. But as soon as they conquer a place, they send the guilds, the Aki, and the dervish brotherhoods to pacify it. So it's a mixture of extractive and regenerative in one package. And that's why they can last, because they actually do bring order and a certain amount of peace in the societies that they control. And by the way, this is the whole debate between Carney and Trump, right? About so I actually disagree with all these cynical people who say, "Oh, we knew it. It's all bullshit." Like right? No, it's not bullshit. If an empire doesn't do it, it collapses. It cannot exist on force alone. It needs to believe in something, and it needs to do something for that belief, even if it's partially hypocritical, partially self-centered. But the British Empire did abolish slavery and spent 2% of its GDP for 20 years to abolish slavery in the Middle East and Africa. They did it. And similarly, there was a real effort at some point in time to have human rights protected. There were all kinds of institutions doing that.
Well, and I just want to say that I agree with you that it's oftentimes those of us or people who are speaking the most cynically that actually, if you look at their behavior, are believers. So if you look at what people say and not what they do, or it's this idea that, well, I don't believe it, but everybody else believes it, so I just have to go along with that. But what you're saying is that, well, regardless of the strength or how the group sees its own belief, to the degree that it guides actions and then leads to consequences, and you still have today that people don't want to let go of the notion of international law, even though all the weaknesses, all the hypocrisies, all the exceptions, all this, still people, when they're complaining about or anguished about what's going on, they still speak in that register. So there's something.
And don't forget that these older modalities had their own dark sides, right? So it's not because you say gifting and commoning. So if you think about the gift economy, right, which is this gift and counter gift. You know what that means in terms of justice? It means revenge. So all these happy tribal societies, they had blood revenge forever and ever. So somebody got killed in your family, your tribe, your clan, you had a duty to avenge it. And so that created this. So so in that sense, public law is a lot better than these cycles of revenge. So the complexity of civilization also brings advantages. Anyway. Okay, so
if you want, I do want to have time to get to AI in China. So let's fast forward here. How would you do Michel Bauwens periodization? How would you periodize the period between, I guess, between the end of World War II and now, and why? And what examples do you think of seeing that this extractive regime, and I'll let you give the name to it that you want, is collapsing, and that can take, who knows how long that takes. Right. And it's not geographically even exercised, but you seem to think that there's reason to believe that we're going to have a kind of resurgency of a respect and a conscious respect for what you're calling the commons.
Yes. So I just want to give 2 minutes to finish the reasoning, right? So you have extraction regime and purification and Jean. You have this dialectic.
Mhm.
So in agriculture and mining societies, classic civilization,
And I'm
the
sorry, are you
purification,
saying purification engine
yeah,
or regime?
yes,
Purification
yes,
engine. That is what you're saying.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And so it's basically the axial religions, right? These ethical world religions are the reaction to civilized agricultural civilization. Once you have print, it's mass organized social movement. So Marxism, socialism, is actually the purification engine of industrial society. And but I think now we reached a new stage, and a good way to compare that, because people say, yeah, but sure, we live still in capitalism. Yes, but think about the 14th century, right? It's a largely feudal society. Like 80%, 90% of the population lives on the land. They give their surplus to the feudal lords. But in the cities, things are changing.
Mm.
There's a new logic of capital with lending money, and having to pay back your debts, and all kinds of stuff is, and commodification. And so you can have situations where you have two systems that coexist. So feudalism and proto-capitalism coexisted for a long time. And so my argument is not to say that capitalism has disappeared, that there's no longer capital and labor, and that struggle doesn't count.
Mm.
But I'm saying at the same time, something is emerging which already has a new coordination logic and a new value logic. And so what do we know about this, right? So first of all, there's a new medium, this meta medium, that is internet.
Mm.
That's the first thing, right? Again, so print gives you capitalism, so certainly you have to think that once you have internet, it it has to produce a new types of coordination. So what is that coordination? It's called stigmergy. So how do
Stigmergy?
people, yeah, stigmergy, the
Okay.
language of the ants and the bees. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so what did you think?
I know. I just had. I didn't know. I
Yeah,
always know I'm going to learn at least one thing from you, Michelle, when we
right.
talk. So that is it. Very good. Sorry. Stigmergy.
Stigmergy is the word of the day. So Stigmergy, if you are working on Linux, Arduino, Wikipedia, all these things that have been produced in the last 15 years, it's done through mutual signaling,
Mm.
because you have people in the whole world. Some of them are paid by one company, some are paid by another company, a lot are not getting paid at all. But because it's open source, they do it because they actually need to do it
Mhm.
for their own use. Um, and so if you cannot tell me what to do, so what you have instead is an open ecosystem where it's holoptical, so everybody can see what everybody else is doing, and then you know what needs to be done because you can see the signals. So if you're on Wikipedia and you know something about Buddhism, and you say, wow, that article is bullshit, I want to change it, right? That's your signal that you can do it, right? And
Mhm.
the same thing with Linux. If you're using the software and something is buggy, then, oh no, I need to do something about it. So
Mhm.
that's a new mode of coordination that is,
Mhm.
trans-territorial, that's holoptical. And so now you can, this is very important, you can mobilize and coordinate labor on a global scale without money and state. That's, it's very important to
Mhm.
get that in your head, that this is an actual possibility, right?
Mhm.
And then the value regime is also different, because, like, how do you determine the success of these things? Well, as long as people keep contributing, it works. And then eventually, yes, the market, creates companies around it, and they do added value for the market, and they try to commodify it and all of that. But still, they all are codependent on this common pool.
Mhm.
When people stop contributing for the common pool,
Mhm.
they all collapse with it.
Can I just stop you for
So,
1 second?
because that's
And
contributory value, right? Okay.
So when you add the thing, so it almost sounds like let the market decide, but in a kind of a different way in terms of the market as an analogy. So, for example, the marketplace of ideas. Yeah, you hear this a lot.
Yeah,
Let
I'm
all the
totally
ideas
against
be
that.
out there,
I'm
and then
totally
whatever
against that.
idea is the most popular is the
Yeah,
best idea, which is a fallacy. So how do you get
completely
around?
agree.
How does that work around? Like if
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. The
like with
stigma
Wikipedia, if I
is
see something on Wikipedia and I think it's bullshit, I could be full of shit. And then you have a whole then you just have more and more bullshit. And
yeah,
then we have somehow you have to decide, or somebody has to decide. There's some sort of
right.
coordination mechanism to
Yeah,
decide how to
yeah. And
filter
so
out
what I've
at least the
so
better, at least good from the worst good, which of course then applies a measure of how you're going to determine what's on that spectrum for whatever particular information source or common source that you're looking at.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
how does that? And maybe I know that I'm sorry. I know that we're talking at the the like the big picture
yeah, yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
isn't that an issue?
That is an issue, and like the market, like if everybody is greedy,
Mm-hmm.
then we also know that doesn't work. That's why we
Mm-hmm.
invented state regulation, because if
Mm-hmm.
you're self-interested, what do I care if I produce poison in the food? There's
Mm-hmm.
no, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so market is also somewhat stigmergic, but it has no intentionality except greed. This is basically people have some joint idea of what it is they want to achieve together,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there is intentionality, and
Okay.
they don't produce commodities because it's abundant. It's
Mm-hmm.
outside of the commodity market. Now, then, of course, market companies can try to make some aspects of it scarce,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can make that into a commodity. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this tension between the contributive layer and the market layer, right? And so, ideally, and this is what I think is the new class struggle is about in that sphere, is how to create generative relationships between the commons and the market rather than degenerative
Mm-hmm.
exploitation that weakens the commons. And so, certainly, you can see like Uber, Airbnb, they're highly degenerative exploitations
Mm-hmm.
of pseudo commons, but you can imagine a different way of doing that, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what the people that think like me, that's what we are thinking about, is how to
Mm-hmm.
create a purified
Mm-hmm.
commons based peer production
So it almost
where
sounds like it's the through this rubric of commoning or commons, it's almost like a parallel system is emerging in the interstices or in the gaps or the failures of the extractive regime that's coming to a close.
yes,
Is
so
that fair
that's
to
the
say?
idea. So this was anticipated actually, in the 30s in the Soviet Union. If you watch the debates, and there's a wonderful book, Read Plenty, by Francis Spifford. He talks about the invention of the internet in the 1960s in the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm.
but then they eventually killed it because it endangered the party control, the central
Mm-hmm.
party control, right? And I have the particular thesis. So you asked me how to read history. So World War One, right, is a struggle between empire and nation state.
Mm-hmm.
Nation state wins. The Ottomans, the Habsburgs, the Tsar, they're all liquidated. Then what you get is a second phase of the struggle, is a struggle of how to manage the nation state, and that's between parliamentary democracy, the American English model, the Soviet model, the planning, state planning, and the particular like corporatist, fascist mix. So these are like very clearly a struggle between three ways to manage the nation state and industrial production,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, fascism is defeated in 45. Soviet Union is defeated in 89. And why is it defeated? This is my thesis, because they could not use cybernetics. So it's not Reagan that killed Russia. It's their own inability to use cybernetics
Mm-hmm.
to reform their planning, because the so-called socialist system, whatever you want to call it, actually was very efficient for industrial development. They
Mm-hmm.
grew 3 times as fast as the West. They were good in science. They were good in technology. But at some point, it stalled, right? So then the next step is to look at what happened in Chile in 1973, Cybersyn, right? So Allende is elected as a democratic socialist. He's facing a strike by the truckers, which is middle class because they own their trucks. He calls in Stafford Beer from England, a cybernetician, who creates this war room, and they create the first cybernetic system to plan the economy, and they win the strike. They defeat the strike by using the fire brigades and the ambulances, and they build an alternative supply chain in like 3 weeks. And so when Pinochet takes power, the first thing he does is to bomb Cybersyn before he even bombs the palace, right? And these Santiago boys have to flee. And who comes in? The Chicago boys. And what do? They study Cybersyn and they apply it to the global capitalist supply chain. So capitalism survived because he knew how to adapt cybernetics, right? Then the next step is China. So now we come to China. So China sees this.
Hey, Michel, can you turn the light on? You're getting a bit dark over there in your neck of the woods. Let's see. Is he dark? Oh, there you go. Very good. Thank you.
Actually,
please continue. Oh, okay.
It's not better if I do both.
It's good. It's good.
And we can move it a little bit. Yeah. And so here's where China comes in, right? So it's, well, what is it? 79. And, Deng Xi is like the implosion of the Soviet Union. And so they decide, right, to reinstate the NEP, the new economic policy, which, you know about that? That happened in 19...
Opening. I know about reform and opening up.
Yes, but the thing is, the new economic policy was tried in the Soviet Union after war communism, and it worked very well. You can actually look on YouTube and you look for Odessa in 1921.
But then it was they were worried about it being too capitalist, so they
Yeah, and then Stalin went to
I'm familiar with NEP in the right after the Bolshevik Revolution, NEP. And was that after? Yeah, they had the civil war between the whites and the reds.
After the civil war, when they won, after war, communism became obsolete.
Yeah,
they did the NEP, which actually worked very well, but they felt it endangered that logic. But so China did it by creating these special economic zones, highly controlled, highly contained, geographically, and by basically, retaining all the aspects like communal land. Maximum 3% capitalists in the party, etc., etc. So they all these safeguards that they kept. But so I see China as the first system that succeeded in a mix of planning, market, and cybernetics. And I think this is what makes them so powerful today. This is, it's not a paradise and it's authoritarian and there's many things we can critique about it. But in terms
there's it's ironically a whole lot of labor exploitation in communist China, but that's another story.
Yes.
No, I don't want to get, it's fine, yeah.
But at the same time, 800 million people were lifted out of poverty, right? So it's
absolute poverty, yeah.
Yeah, and if you compare it to, how capitalism did it in the 19th century with the Victorian Holocaust, so apparently industrialization is a very harsh process, and that's kind of the extractive regime. Remember?
And that's what I would get at is the idea that that if you have a rapid industrialization process that's overseen by a communist party that puts whatever the abstraction is, the people, the good, whatever, it's still a lot of human cost, and I totally agree with you. There's just like how do you get around that? But I think that it's important to acknowledge it. Yeah.
Right.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So the struggle now, the way I see it, is you have two geopolitical blocks, the West and the Rest, and it continues a 5,000-year tension between a West Eurasian market-centric model
Mm-hmm.
and a East Asian harmony-based state-centric model.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's Ellen Maskin's Wood. I've read 2 volumes out of 3, but 10 years ago. And I think she said that the Greeks were the first private ruling class. So where actually the rentiers took power,
Mm-hmm.
that created a revolution, democracy with the polis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we continued basically between the system that has political equality but property inequality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been the Western way, and it was retained throughout the Middle Ages because of canon law, which
Mm-hmm.
took Roman law, and essentially came back with capitalism, right? While in the East they always kept the state. So the Mandarins are not the merchants, right? The Mandarins were dominant in China, not the warriors and not the merchants. So it's a very specific way to choose how to develop. So in terms of coordination, anyway.
But if I want to ask you something, I just want to throw one more fly in the ointment, and then I want to let you run with it. In terms of how different China is, or this West versus the rest ideological geography, is that if you look at even today, if you look at the amount of social spending that China does compared to the United States spends more in social spending than China, and China still to this day they're still they're investing a lot. So in terms of I guess for lack of a better word, the means of production, broadly understood, and they're still holding back household consumption. Yeah.
So that's nation.
I just want to. So I just think it's. I think it depends. So the appearances, the discourse, the mechanisms, but then you actually measure certain outcomes, that what I find over and over again is that, for example, China's integration into global capitalism, they've mastered that field. Yeah, they wanted to go into the WTO. They play the game. They play, obviously. They've managed that coordination or integration very, very well at the aggregate level. And if you look at the investment in the means of production, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's uneven, but that's indisputable.
But I still think it's a different regime, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I still, so I won't go into is it socialist or not socialist, but I think they're guardrails.
The only thing I wanted to point back is that how what has the more human face, I think, is an interesting question, but maybe it's irrelevant to what we're talking about now.
It depends. I can tell you that
we're the least worst.
I'm connected. So I'm connected to people in China who are, more like alternative movements. So, I went to visit grassroots communities, rural reconstruction projects, eco-villages, permaculture, and although they have critiques, at the same time, they're more relaxed than people in the West because they know the red lines, but everything else they feel free. And when I am in the West, and then where you're online, you're in the West, and you know that as well as me, is that you're always a hair away from being canceled, from being aggressively ill-treated, with people who wish that you'd starve and that you don't have income and so all of that, right? And so in this particular conjuncture, and so maybe this is something that I should say.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to bang down on China. I had a great time in China when I was there for a year, and I'd like to go back. I just think it's important to, whenever possible, to just kind of try to be as accurate as we are with the terms that we use. Yes. And I certainly don't have the market the monopoly on what those should be or how they change.
But so So the land is still communal,
Mm.
right? It's managed by the village committees, but it's not private. They can lease, but they cannot sell. 70% of the industry is in the hands of the state. Only 3% of the members of the Communist Party can be capitalist. And in order to make a career in the party, it's it's really meritocratic. Like
Mm.
it's it's very much based on your achievements, etc., etc. So I still think that the ruling class in China is reproduced as a collective
Mm.
and not by private inheritance. And I
Mm.
think that's a huge difference.
Mm.
Would I call it socialist? Maybe not, but it's different. And so
Mm.
the basic feeling I have when I'm in the West is that the common good has died.
Mm.
And I don't have that feeling when I'm in China. I have a feeling that in their system, they're able to care for the whole over the long term.
Mhm.
And
But
maybe
this
it's this,
also it's
maybe
quite
they're
national,
distributed.
but it's quite nationalistic, isn't it? And I'm not
Yeah,
saying that
but
I'm not saying that
I think the
in a
nation
normative
is the
way.
commons. You see,
I'm not saying
I
in a
think in a
normative way,
way,
but just the factual
I think in
matter.
a way, the nation is the commons.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
state and the party within the state
Hmm.
is dominant,
Hmm.
but they are at the service of something. And if you look at the 2013 speech by Jinping, it's very interesting. You know, it's against nihilism, right?
Hmm.
He says Russia died because the parties stopped believing in their own program,
Hmm.
and if you don't believe in anything, power becomes corrupt. And we
Hmm.
don't want this to happen in China. It
Hmm.
literally, that's his reasoning.
Hmm.
Um,
No, the
and
party very much wants to continue being the party, of course.
yeah. And then what I also discovered, which I find very interesting, is that they used to be
Mhm.
basically judged on their economic success, so GDP, and that's why they build all these bridges and and roads and because
Mhm.
they were judged. Today, it's both common prosperity, which is basically GDP a bit expanded, but ecological civilization.
Mhm.
So they are
But
now
I would just
judged.
want to throw in there, Michel, that their Gini coefficient is higher than most. It's quite high. So
Yes,
inequality,
yes,
yeah. So I mean, and also if you have a lot of surplus, if you have a lot of capacity, you need to put that someplace. So the kind of spatial fix of investing and all this stuff. Yeah, I'm just a
yeah.
bit skeptical. I'm just a bit. Of any quote unquote good news story. I've just become increasingly
It's
skeptical.
fine,
Not. I
and
don't want to be a
I'm
nihilist. I don't want to be like a poo poo.
yeah.
But I'm just. I'm
I,
just. I
I'm
just.
more thinking in terms of
Yeah.
like relative
Mhm.
the least bad for the moment, but then of course I'm actually for something else, and this is what I want
Mhm.
to introduce
Mhm.
now, which is I call it the archipelago of regenerative villages, right? So
There you
I
go.
think that we now have a unique
Mhm.
capacity for translocal development.
Mhm.
We can create translocal power. So if you're doing anything regenerative, which is what needs to be done. So Chorparn, a Singaporean futurist, talks about type 1 civilization.
Mhm.
What is a type 1 civilization? It's a civilization that has mastered the thermodynamic balance between extraction and regeneration.
Mhm.
So you develop humanity but without destroying the planet. Okay, if you and we don't master that yet. We are developing but at the expense of the planet. But what we want to reach is some kind of equilibrium, metabolic, what Marx called the metabolic rift. We want to heal the metabolic rift. And capitalism cannot do that. And I'm not sure the Chinese hybrid system can do it either,
Mhm.
although they are making substantial progress. Without, okay, we'll see. This being said, so I think there are millions of people in the world that are actually doing regenerative activity. They're
Mhm.
doing forms of agriculture that make the soil better over time.
Mhm.
They have cooperative housing arrangements. They have community land trusts. They do renewable energy
Mhm.
co-ops. Like in Germany, 60% of renewable energy was done by the people, not by the state. So there is a deep demand for equilibrium. that neither the market nor the state are currently offering.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a third option. Anyway, and so to come back to your, about the shift, so there's many shifts at the same time. So there's a convergence cycle, which is an economic cycle about how the different parts of the economy fit together. It broke in 2008. We haven't found something else yet.
Mm-hmm.
There is a civic cycle of 100 years that is described in the fourth turning, the secular cycle, which is also hegemonic cycle. So this is an institutional crisis. I think it's very clear to see for everybody our institutions are losing legitimacy, but we don't know how to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 500-year cycle between centralization and decentralization. Right? So we had the Peloponnesian War, the warring kingdoms, the Italian city-states in the 14th century. This is the end of a decentralized period, and then we do centralization, which in Europe means a nation state.
Mm-hmm.
It's a paradox because we don't have an empire, but it was the next best thing to unify. So these things are breaking down. The Westphalian system is breaking down, right? But the deeper cycle, and this is what I want to get at, is that I do believe that the civilisational cycle itself is ending. So the dominance of this polarity between market and state is itself reaching its last legs. There is no solution in the state. There is no solution in the market. And even the Chinese, if you take it in the most positive interpretation of this kind of blend between markets, state, and cybernetics, is still not livable in thermodynamic logic. They don't do it. They don't do it well enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's possibility there, for a new post-civilizational cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the positive story. But we are the end of many cycles. So that's why we talk about the meta crisis, right? There's an underlying logic that makes all these cycles go bad at the same moment. And so you have to keep your eyes open to all the stuff that's going really in a bad direction, but don't lose hope, because historically, there's always an after.
Mm-hmm.
And let's work for that after. Like let's think that we're butterflies. We're not the caterpillars. We are butterflies, right? We have DNA to basically, and yeah, that's anyway, the way I keep myself sane.
So that what I want to ask is, like, can you you spent some time in China? Can you just give us an example of something you saw in China and how it kind of connects into this
So
broader
I'll start
synopsis?
with the China paradox, and it goes as follows: precisely because China is a relatively more authoritarian and centralized political system. Precisely for that reason, the Chinese who want to do something different have to be more radically peer-to-peer and decentralized. And this is true at different levels. So I met, for example, eco-villages. They don't want leaders because they don't want anybody to stick out. There is a movement, it's called 706 Co-Living Network, with students in all over China, and they basically rent things together, and they organize events on their own. They organize 1,000 cultural events every year. Again, there's no leadership. Then most remarkable,
If there's no leadership, who cleans up afterwards? Everybody, or just whoever feels guilty, or how does that work? In terms of distribution of labor.
I'm not sure about all the details, but it looked pretty, pretty decent. And then, I went to this. So, they have this movement. It's called the National Rural Reconstruction Movement. It's an old, 120 years old movement with its own history and tradition. And so what you have to know also is that basically Jinping stopped urbanization, right? They had 75 million empty apartments. He changed the law. All the real estate went bankrupt. and he redirected most of the money to industrial innovation, but part of it went to rural revitalization.
Mm.
Um, and so this movement has trained 15,000 people to revive the villages. And I went to three of them, and it's remarkable. So,
Mm.
okay, I'm in Fujian province, 1 hour and a half from the nearest train station.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up at 7 a.m. with zooming noise. I open the window. There are 20 drones in the sky, tourist drones.
Mm.
So drones have become
What's a tourist drone?
a tourist drone. Like tourists
Yeah,
have
but what?
drones to make filmed.
Oh, okay, okay. I was like,
They're filming. They go on a holiday and then they film with
I
a
was like,
drone.
are they? Like, is it? Because I was thinking like it's like a virtual vacation. Like I rent a drone space and then I can see
No.
things. Okay.
So then I go for breakfast, and there's a bakery which makes almost the best croissants I've eaten in my life.
Mm.
And the coffee is brought to me by a little robot with a hole in his back, and my coffee is on his back, right?
Yeah.
Every room that I rented, and I wasn't in luxury hotels, more like 3-star. Every room speaks to me. 90% of the cars I was in were electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
I have only seen one motorbike with gas.
Mm.
Everywhere, all the motorcycles are electric.
Mm.
In Shenzhen, they have drone taxis.
I just want to say, Michel, though the power that charges those electric cars, I wonder how much of it is made from like coal plants and.
Yes, it is. It is
Yeah.
a majority. They are majority coal producers,
But it's still cleaner.
But they, I follow some authors like Arnaud Bertrand on X, and they show that the stats are changing.
Mm.
And you do see the effects, which is, for example, the air is clean, like in Beijing. It was a hell. Now it's clean air.
Mm-hmm.
They have grown forests around the Beijing.
Mm.
They're greening deserts. There's a guy called John D. Liu who has created a forest in a desert. It's as big as Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying there's stuff happening.
Yeah, and I want to ask you something. And I don't know if you know. I guess it's not a fair comparison, India and China, obviously, but because you have this notion about the bureaucratic state and the bureaucratic the bureaucratic states that communist parties tend to develop, and you get this idea that all this craziness. However, it seems that one of the things you have in China is that once the central level decides to do something, it can it could be streamlined in a way that would be unheard of, like in California or where if somebody just wants to make a bike path along one neighborhood street, it can be like caught up in the courts and protests for like 12 years or something. Yeah. So it's like which. So you have supposedly this, the most capitalist society in the world, and then you have China, but where China is able to cut, for lack of a better expression, cut through red tape. Way more than you could have in,
I guess that's
quote
why
unquote democratic system with 7 levels of government.
Yeah, I think that's what I was relatively impressed, because I do feel like there is a vision of society. There is a concern for ecological equilibrium. There is, not that they do it perfectly, but you feel, what I feel in the West is different. It's like especially in the US, like you can't get anything through for the common good, because private power will always destroy it. And I look at my own country, Belgium and Europe. Last time I went, I had to wait 4 months for a crucial health exam. I actually had to go back to Thailand, where it takes 3 days. And yes, life is still very good, in certain places, but it's not going in the right direction.
No,
And
the bit of vitality, and I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if you know what maxing means, but there's this whole thing now called China maxing in the West, and so there's younger people who are trying to like have the aesthetic or kind of like whatever they have, the idea they have what's going on in China. It's called China maxing.
okay, I don't know about
Whereas for
that.
a long
And
time you would think that it was the other way, and I'm sure
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
there's still some of this romanticization of Hollywood and the West, the United States, and all this stuff. And still you have more people wanting to still, as far as I'm aware, the people wanting to go from to go from China to the United States to go to higher ed or to whatever, obviously
it's tanking pretty fast right
yeah,
now.
okay, but it's also because the other
Yeah,
way, not many people in America know Chinese, so there's that as
no,
well. um,
no. And
but
I mean, when you read the
I just
constructive
think this
quest,
this idea just in the imaginary, and that must really
yeah,
freak out the people that have who just have this irrational hatred or
yeah,
fear of China. It must really freak them out that the younger you go, the more interest
yeah,
in like the how this notion of this image of China, that they can't seem to get people, especially younger generations, to have just a
yeah. But
negative connotation, which
you
I think
know,
is a good thing.
so I've been to 9 places. I haven't seen one homeless person.
Hmm.
I've been to the US 2 years ago. Oh,
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
San Francisco is absolutely not what I remember the way it
Mhm,
was when I was like in
mhm.
my 20s and 30s. They're now like tents in front of the city hall. I think they removed them for Jiping actually.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know if they're there now. But basically, I was there 2 years ago. The flat parts
Mhm,
of San Francisco are just unlivable.
mhm.
It's just,
And
just
yet the real estate keeps on keeping on.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay, but so
But
so so okay, maybe we don't have time to talk about this today, but I just want to say there are options today that if you do anything positive and regenerative, that you can already organize translocally.
mm,
And so, for example, I work for a network nation,
mhm,
right? So these are people who left China because they wanted to be free, basically with crypto and
mhm,
Ethereum. They work on Ethereum. They live in Chiang Mai. They created a community. So they have a network nation. It's called Four Cs. They have a funding mechanism,
mhm,
global Chinese community, and they have a community called Uncommons.
mhm,
They just organized, I mean, not just them, but a whole bunch of people, a 2 week civilisational AI festival in which I participated.
mhm,
And so I do, I have a feeling that I live this, right? That I have like
mhm,
multiple identities. I'm a
mhm,
Belgian European living in Thailand, but I'm connected with people that I share a lot with.
mhm,
And they happen to fund me as well
mhm,
because they believe in what I'm doing. Because very few people are thinking the way I'm thinking.
mhm,
I don't know why that is. I feel very banal. But like, where are so I can give you a few names: Will Ruddick, Benjamin Life. There are
mhm.
probably some females that I don't know that think in the same way.
It's okay. I won't.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just hedging. I'm just hedging. Because
Any polycules? Any polyamorous? Yeah. Okay. But I
uh,
want before we go on
check,
to
check.
I would like before because since we had technical difficulties, we've actually only been talking for an hour.
Uh,
But excuse me, I wanted to make sure that I get you to flesh out focusing on regenerative activities. So I'm
yeah,
assuming regenerative. I'm just to paraphrase how I understand you. Anything that has to do with regenerating our relationship to the natural world, to each other, both locally and translocally, to kind of patch together or be part of this emergent kind of ascendancy of the commons, broadly understood,
right.
that we shouldn't be, and that we shouldn't be uh, that you definitely don't sound to me like an AI skeptic that's going to be the singularity and we're all going to be turned into like matrix batteries for our AI overlord. You don't seem to be thinking that. But if you just go by like, what do you mean by just flesh out like examples of do it whenever you can be part of something regenerative, that you should be trying to do that. And by doing that, you're then plugging into, whether you realize it or not, this kind of
Yeah.
incipient or
You
active
realize is
structure.
this. So okay, just a brief history of the commons. So sacred commons, indigenous people,
Mhm,
in commons within the imperial era. When capitalism comes, they enclose the commons, and the commons become social commons of the working class, and they get nationalized as a welfare state. But then we have 93, the digital commons come back,
mhm,
right? Suddenly people realize they can share knowledge, and they create knowledge commons.
mhm,
And then 2008, there's a crisis, and young people start realizing, well, we can organize and actually do things in the physical world. And so we enter into an era of phygitality, right? Where it is this merger of the digital and the physical world. And so you can be both a permaculture person, with your feet in the mud, working with your mates very locally, but you organize on a global scale.
mhm,
And so what's happening most recently is that people actually start thinking in terms of nations.
mhm,
Like, why don't we create a nation, a permaculture nation?
mhm,
Um, and so I find this very exciting,
mhm,
as is that you can actually create communities of solidarity and sacrifice
mhm,
that are not just national.
mhm,
And then, of course, you have to rethink everything. Like, okay, what do we do with the nation? And I'm very open to all kinds of mixed realities, because the big problem today, right, is that the class struggle, unfortunately, is now between the nowheres and the somewheres, right? It's between the educated and the non-educated, and the non-educated people are moving to the populist right, and the educated people have become woke in some fashion or another, with some outliers like us too. But this is a big problem, right? This is a really big problem. But I think we can redesign like interclass unity of contributors. And I want to give you an example how this could work. So I was in Ghent in 2017. So they need 5 million meals for public school children. They're not bought from multinational organizations who fill the food with colorings and all
mhm,
kinds of toxic things. Okay, so why not? And they actually were doing it when I was there. Why not create a system where you make agreements with bioregional farmers, zero carbon cargo bikes, workers, physical workers on their bikes, cooks in the school, asking parents to volunteer on top of it, and you need geeks to coordinate the digital system, right?
mhm,
Suddenly, you have created a system where physical and digital workers are reunited around a common goal of making healthy food for the children.
mhm,
So I think we can use this for healing, this kind of divide that is now destroying, especially our Western society. And unfortunately, I see no hope in the political system in the West. I just can't see it.
mhm,
We have a European ruling class that wants to go to war with Russia, that cut off itself from cheap energy, and
mhm.
that wants to go to war with weapons both in the U.S., where they have the kill switch, so we can't even go to war without their permission.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's like it's such a nightmarish, self-destructive
Mhm,
scenario.
mhm,
But then what do you have on the other side? Look what's happening in the US. Is that what you want instead? I don't know. I don't.
mhm.
Right? It's
Well, and to get beyond what we want and what we don't want to what's to the to what we do want, and then how to get through the obstacles between us and that. I'm just thinking that what you said, what your examples and your outlook are really appealing. And I think, but then it comes down to when those things come in conflict with organized and centralized power, with the monopoly of violence, that's when the rubber hits the road.
yeah.
Yeah. Because it seems like I'm just going to use just for lack of a better word, the establishment or the powers that be or whatever. It's like, fine, do your thing, But if you step on our toes, then we'll have a discussion.
Yeah, but
because the nation state still has borders. Who decides what gets in and out? I'll think of what's been so disempowering, and I think maybe why one of the reasons that people are so fixated on things like the Epstein X-Files and this type of thing on the left is because what we've been subjected to, particularly with the Gaza thing, and realizing how powerless we were to do anything about it, and how it's still going on today. And you have the Board of Peace, which a lot of the quote-unquote global South signed on to, including Vietnam. And the idea that what could be more regenerative or what a translocal activity than trying to stop a genocide? Yet, good luck. You can't get anywhere near the place.
Right.
And look at I think the worst case scenario for what the uses of these new technologies. You don't have to look any further than Jared Kushner's presentation for New Gaza at Davos. And I don't want to get, I'm aware that there's the back and forth. That you're totally aware of the problems, but it's just that when you are facing a system that's default can be quite extremely violent, and we have these centralized powers that have this access to weapons of mass destruction and distraction. Yeah. I'm not expecting you to answer it. It's just what makes me find it difficult not to totally just want to be like, whatever. I should just enjoy what I can enjoy and not think about anything else.
No. I of course I am aware of the news and what's happening, and the way I keep my sanity is by keeping hope alive and by doing things that make life worth living and to prepare a better time. Mm-hmm. So I think of it like in the Reformation Catholic Civil War, right? Killed millions of people, and and it wasn't much you could do either at that time. Mm-hmm. But it's also the time when the Amish and the Hutterites and the Mennonites created their communities where they couldn't survive in Europe. They moved to the US, and they're still there, and they're still alive, and they still live their lifestyles. And so, every era creates this kind of mode D, and creates good things for the future. Mm-hmm. So I think we're now in a time of seed forms, and maybe it's not intelligent strategy right now to seek direct confrontation with the powers that be, and it's more time of I actually critique this because around me, the young people I know, they're all in this dark forest, cozy web. Nobody wants to get known anymore. Like, they all use pseudos. They're not on social media. They're on small groups in Signal, and nobody is sharing anything anymore with, But this is where we are. This is actually where we are, and within that, they're doing good stuff. They're one movement that I really like is Locos. They build this really secure software for communication. They have 56 groups where they meet regularly in the physical world. They have bi-weekly educational podcasts where they talk about history and change. And I think, this is great. This is what we have to do. Maybe not direct confrontation, but really constructing and, start with, how do you call it? The low-hanging fruit, and that's where technology comes in. I was debanked, I was PayPal, but I can get around it. Right? 15 years ago, I could not get around it.
Yeah. And on the last note, I just want to just your general. So it seems like you are, of course, you're a very smart and empathic man, so you're aware of the that AI is not a panacea, but it also seems like you're not too in the scheme of things. You think it's more positive than negative, or you think it's here, so we better well just deal with it.
Yeah. I actually,
I mean,
I'm
the
not
idea. I
excited
think that
about
there's
AI. I'm
this.
not excited about AI at this
Yeah,
stage
okay.
because this debate about it will change everything,
Mhm.
it will destroy everything, it will destroy the planet.
It will destroy
Uh,
democracy because why do you can get rid of politics if you can if you can program an AI to make the best decisions? Why
I
not?
don't believe. So I believe actually, and I know it sounds weird,
Mm,
that we are at a stage of a kind of spiritual revolution.
okay.
Because no matter how much technology you give, if in the current toxic environment, it's going to be shit anyway. There's
Mhm,
no technical solution to what ails us. Fundamentally, there's a decision to be taken that we need to survive as humanity without destroying our planet.
mhm,
And the way we do this is through pedagogical catastrophes. There's no other way. So this has been studied. Dark ages produce consciousness change,
mhm,
right? There's William Irwin Thompson writes about this. It's like every time there's a dark age is actually where something happens,
mhm,
but because they have to. It's
mhm,
just that the old stuff doesn't work at all anymore, and I
mhm.
think this is
Yeah, it
where
just
this.
depends on how many times we have to get beaten over the head or how many catastrophes before sometimes there's a spark and then it takes off. Like,
I
even if
heard
you think what this is
somebody.
going on is fantastic, it ain't working. We can't keep on keeping on like this.
I heard somebody who actually, I don't know what on what it was based, but he said, yeah, I know somebody who's calculated, we need 45 million deaths in less than 2 weeks. Like, I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but like, in order to really shock the human brain, you need something serious.
Mhm. And I wanted to
It's like
ask you. Sorry, go ahead, finish.
it's like when you smoke and the doctor says you have 6 months to live, right? Okay,
Mhm,
now I'm gonna try to
mhm.
stop smoking.
Yeah. No, it just seems like we know there's this thing between what we know and what we believe. Yeah.
Right.
So we can talk about it like, but like if you look at the behavior, it's like, well, people are saying these things, but if we look at how we're acting, it doesn't seem like we believe it, or we don't want to believe it, or we can't believe it.
Yeah, of
Um,
course, as long as you
you
don't
know,
live it, like. But don't you think that? And I think you do probably do the same. In like everyday life, like my relationship with my children, with my wife, with my family. It's like that's where I can be happy,
mm,
and then especially after you get canceled, it's like who can I really count on?
mm,
Like, do I want to be around people that are not serious,
mm,
that will look the other way when something happens and you get attacked? No, no, not anymore. So I sometimes say provocatively, I become feudal. What I mean is not, of course, that I have farmers working for me, but reciprocity,
mm,
reciprocity, right? Like I want to have relationships of reciprocity.
mm,
And 5 years ago, I just started changing my life,
mm,
and of course, it doesn't solve everything, but it does give you a measure of calm and happiness. My wiki, which is my life's work, was out for 3 weeks.
mm,
I'm pretty sure 10 years ago I would have been sick,
mm.
and I was just like,
It's
yeah,
all right.
okay, let's see how it goes.
Mhm,
Let's stay calm. We've seen other
mhm.
stuff in my life, so
Well, I
let's
think it's so important to have, like, even in when, after you get through the darkness of it or whatever's going on, that even if it's just hypothetical, you have to have a point outside of where you're at,
yeah,
you know? Like there's a way there's, even if it's just, okay, from here to there, and then you just keep on, and then you just start doing the
yeah, yeah.
motions, and then yeah, what can you do? You
And
can't
can I say
unfortunately
one
we
more
can't
thing?
force people to
Yeah,
think and act and believe how we do, and maybe at scale that would end up being a terrible thing. But I wanted to ask you one final thing before we wrap up. um And I know that, and I don't mean this to sound like I'm against mysticism or something like that, but I just noticed something, at least with people. I'll just use Tucker Carlson as an example. That what's become mainstream is a lot of talk of, like, angels and demons and evil and the devil and all of that, which of course are age old archetypes, or and I'm just wondering, what do you make of that, about that kind of discourse? People,
So if you read Spengler, about
compelled to think about what's going on, looking around the world. And I was thinking about, I think this quote's attributed to Jameson, but I'm not sure, Frederick Jameson, that it's easier for people to imagine the end of the world than a life
and the end
beyond
of capitalism.
capitalism. And now we have that it's easier for people to believe that we've entered a phase of angels and demons, rather than that we're in this kind of systemic crisis, and that there's a way out beside it. But I just think there's something human about there. You're always going to have a level of spirit of that kind of thinking to get a handle on what to make of all these things that are going on in the world, especially when a lot of it seems quite, well, demonic, I guess, metaphorically speaking. Or what do I know? Maybe there are demons, Anyway.
So, well, in Spengler, in his famous book, Decline of the West, he says that one of the signs of the end of a civilizational cycle is, he calls it a new religiosity. So religion, is basically the non-rational axioms to build a society, right? It's like Gödel's theorem. So you can't build a society within like a purely rational system. So you need like axioms. And so historically they were provided by religion. This religion gave you like some basic values of how to see the world. And then there could be diversification within that, but at least everybody. And okay, I guess then we tried it in a secular way. But so those are like new values, like, that actually create something. But the new religiosity at the end of a cycle is just a coping mechanism. It doesn't mean that these people have changed and are building something new. They're just coping, right? So I think that is what's happening now. I haven't seen like any radical, society changing, like the Christians were. The Christians were seriously different from the Romans, right? They had another value system. But I have to tell you, I'll make my own confession. I've started reading Christian mystics myself.
No, and listen, I'll just also tell you that I might go back to it when I was when I was going to university back in the States at Southern Oregon University, in Ashland, Oregon, which was the Wiccan capital of maybe the Pacific Northwest. I don't know. So I had friends that, there was astrologers, there was tarot readers, there was all this stuff. I had a little altar, and I just said it was for fun, but I enjoyed having my goddess altar, and it changed a couple times a year, light a candle, incense. Now, I would tell myself, well, I'm just, this is just it's a fun ritual. It's interesting to do, that I don't really believe that. However, that is, I'm not going to, that is a kind of ritual or spiritual idea or practice.
Yeah. So ritual,
I don't mean to poo on people. I just noticed that there's a lot more demon and angel talk than I'm used to seeing.
Ritual is different, right? Ritual is different. So when my mother, okay, can I take 5 minutes to talk about this personal experience? Is that
please? Let me. Please.
Yeah. So my mother had Alzheimer. I took her to Thailand, and at some moment it looked like she was dying, and I became obsessed with this idea. I have to find a priest. I don't know where it came from, but I was just suddenly there, and then I found a priest. He did the last rites, but she didn't die. So then a few months later, I was traveling, and my wife calls me, and she says, your mother is dying, right? So okay, it took me 2 3 days to find a plane and come back. But you know what? I discovered I had processed her death.
Mm.
So so the ritual that I had done with that priest, I actually done something to me
Mm-hmm.
that had processed that grief in
Mm-hmm.
some way, unconscious way. And so I think rituals work,
Mm-hmm.
and we miss them in the secular world. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then so she really died that moment. We had a Buddhist festival here because my wife took care of it, and 400 people came from the village to say goodbye to my mother. It's a 4-day ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very moved because, like in Belgium, it would have been 15 people in a kind of depressing Catholic mass. Um, and no, this was like a communal recognition of my mother. And so I'm just saying these religions, it's not just to believe,
Mm-hmm.
they bind people together.
Mm-hmm.
It's religio also means to bind together, and we have to find something,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can bind together people by religion, by ideology. It worked for a
Mm-hmm.
while. I think, and this is where peer-to-peer comes in, that these kind of productive communities that do something regenerative can actually also find new ways to bind people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like, because I don't think the nation can come back. It's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to
Well,
work.
not in the same way,
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand the the somewheres that they want to preserve
Mm-hmm.
things, and that and so I respect that they're trying to do that, but I do not think
So,
because
what do
we
you think?
also need.
On that note, what do you know? What do you make of? I don't know if you've picked up on this, because I know that you're not based in the States, but there seems to be, at least online, and I don't know how much this is taken on outside of the online spaces, but there seems to be resurgence in racialized thinking.
Yeah,
So race-based, and of course, and I'm and rapid demographic changes, of course, are always going to cause problems.
yeah.
But there
I
seems to be, but in
I
terms of this,
understand it.
yeah, I
It's in the
mean,
UK too, right? In the
yeah,
UK, it's very strong as well.
mm,
It's for me, it's an expected backlash of the woke.
mm,
If you say to the people like you're bad because of your skin
mm,
or your gender, and is that what you're saying?
mm,
Like you have whiteness, and
mm.
therefore you will have to suffer for all the generations to come.
Well, and
Like
also, don't you
what
think, Michel, that for the very until just a minute ago, most cultures and areas on Earth were quite homogenous.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a reason why people have kind of an in-group preference.
yeah. I think we
And I'm
need
not saying
to.
that that's baked. I'm just putting that out there. So all of a sudden, and I also find it interesting that people like, oh well, multiculturalism and in this culture and that culture, whatever. It's like that we wouldn't have had all these multicultures, these different cultures, if it was all,
Yeah, yeah,
there was
yeah,
no
yeah. No, I
borders of
I
it,
think
right?
it's a backlash, and it happened before. It happened before. The
Mm,
U.S. stopped immigration in the
mm,
1920s. And so, yeah, we get the end of the cycle,
mm,
and now the people are in
mm.
revolt, and
Well, and
of
I was
course
also
they will.
thinking, I don't know if this makes sense to you, but I'm sure you're probably familiar with the notion, the strength of weak ties.
Yeah,
But all of a sudden it seems like the strength of strong ties become bad, essentially. So it's
right.
okay to have weak ties and market transactions, but you shouldn't get too attached
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
the
I
strong
think
ties,
people are
maybe
groping.
based on religion or nation or kin, that somehow
Yeah,
those have, at least if you go woke enough, are like, those are too problematic. And of course, I'm aware of
right.
history that those identities have been used for particular
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
But I think is maybe that's also a point that in some places in the West, maybe with the peak of globalization, that and being told that weak ties are the best thing ever, and that you can have all this, you can have these weak ties with people, but that somehow that became um somehow it became okay, especially on the center to left, to
Yeah.
stigmatize strong ties.
What about this? So we relocalize, and I think it will happen because of supply chains will be dangerous and all.
Mm-hmm.
So you're relocalizing. You know your local people. That gives you a certain type of identity. We are bioregionalizing as well. So that means that you can engage in the restoration of your ecoregion, bioregion, and that gives you another layer of identity. You still have a cultural nation. So you're still English, you're still German, you appreciate, German literature, Italian literature. You still have that. And then you have a layer of planetarity, which is I'm collaborating with all those people in the world to solve that particular issue in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is what we need. We need this kind of layered constructive identities, but not unique, antagonistic. So I think we can be, restore a certain amount of respect for the nation, without becoming nationalistic and antagonistic, and for that to happen we need something positive. And I think the positive, it's not globalist, but it's planetary. Like we are interdependent of each other. And there are many issues that we cannot solve locally alone or even nationally alone. And so I don't think that's going to go away. And I this is basically the challenge: how to find the right balance between these different levels.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you, and I think that it's not workable to have certain groups that everybody except for one or two groups can be as proud of their history and their cultures they want to be. They're all the current and historical grievances and voices have to be revered and centered and respected. But other groups, particularly if white and within that group male, and within that
we
group,
have to be,
we
have to go back to egalitarianism.
No,
we
it's
have to
bad.
go
It's
back
like that. Of course, it's going to backlash.
We
I
have
mean,
to go
people
back
like
to
Nick
egalitarianism.
Fuentes
This is
are
why
just using identity politics.
Yeah.
They're just reversing it.
Well, exactly. I mean, this is why I got canceled, because they were telling me literally, you can't speak because you're white.
And
I
you're
said,
male
"What?"
and you're straight, you bad man.
Yeah. So I said, what? Like, I literally worked all my life, for racial and gender equality. When I was young, we were hiding people from the ANC. I mean, you come on. So reversing it, that's not what I want. I want to be linked to persons, right? And you're a black person, you're a brown person, but you're a person, and we're human. And so so what they're doing is more like the Turkish Ottoman system, where people were split, the millet system, right? You lived in a neighborhood, and after 8 o'clock they closed the doors, and you couldn't go out. Like that in Istanbul they have these pathways on the roof, right? That's what because the people actually want to continue connecting. At the ground floor, the state forbade after 8 p.m. you had to close. So that's what they want, and that's so totally regressive. I'm nostalgic to my youth when I was a Trotskyist and briefly a communist as well. When we had the 1st of May, like, it was amazing how multicultural it was. We had tables in every country. We were all brothers and sisters. That's what I want. I want. That's what I want. People, all the people, to be able to connect to each other. And in some way, I believe that Western countries should normalize. I live in Thailand, right? I'm not demanding anything. I'm a guest here. I'm happy that I can be here. But like, I think that's normal. I'm just saying, I think that's totally normal. And
no, and I feel the same way. I know there's places that I've been around the world, and I'm very opinionated, but there's certain things that it's like, it just seems rude if there's certain topics regardless of the country I'm in, that I just would be really hesitant to speak out on publicly because
I
it just
know.
seems like, I'm not, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I just
British or
saying,
I'm not Dutch or I'm not
and,
Indian or I'm not
you know,
Chinese. It's like,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. That's the
but
way it's
there's,
gonna be for a while.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay.
uh,
So last thing. So
yeah.
let's see. It's the end of the world as we know it. But Michel, it feels. I don't know. Well, I've just said feels fine. At least
Or are
not.
these like messages? Are these messages?
I already put them up there. It's just
Oh,
some
I
people you
don't
can
see
read.
them. I
You
don't
can
see
read them
them.
if you like. But I think it was this
You
Kitty.
can read it to me. It's up to you. But I don't. See, yeah, I'm just saying it that I don't see them.
Let's see. Let's see. We have hello from Iceland. Capitalism removes complexities within the pursuit of resource extraction, which kills off species necessary for the Earth to stay in disequilibrium. I think
So okay.
this was back when you're talking about capitalism and
Yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah,
extractive regimes and restorative regimes.
yeah.
And let's see.
I just want to say one thing. Extraction is necessary. We need to eat. We need clothes. So
Mhm.
it's not a question of saying there's no extraction. It's a question of a balance between extraction and regeneration, right?
Yeah, we need to consume things. So
Yeah, we have to. We have to eat. We have to, even if we're vegetarian, we're still
process
eating.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. But she continues here. Kitty cat, there's a continuous pull of inertia to equalize to the system the Earth is found in, i.e., the dead of space, to
Okay.
be in equilibrium with the dead of space. I'm not sure what that means. Like, I think that's maybe it's about the entropy part.
Yeah.
Maybe. But she let me fit
She's
she
very
let me
active.
finish let me fit she has two
Thank
more.
you, Kitty Cat,
She
for
has
the
two more,
comment.
and then I'll read those out. And then if there's something you want to comment on, that's fine. Because on YouTube you can't. There's a character limit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So then
yeah.
it continues. Since capitalism is removing resources, i.e., complexities, faster than the species can adapt and adjust to the changed environment, then the second law of thermodynamics is at play. Because the inertia becomes stronger than, oh yeah, that's the end one. Because the inertia becomes stronger than what the species can adapt to, and the Earth is pulled into equilibrium with the system of dead space, a dead planet. One more thing. And then extraction is necessary to have the internet. It's the material object that allows it to exist and then power to run it. So I think so this was when she was responding to in real time. Well, of course,
Yeah.
it's the chat.
Okay.
Back to the
Can I
middle
say
of our
something
talk.
quickly about AI, right? So I actually think that AI, so I said that stigmergy is a big part of the new coordination system. And I think AI is automating stigmergy, right? It's automating these signaling systems. And so I do think AI, if it has a positive role, it's to make that complexity visible to the human.
Mm.
All these resources that we use. And so I imagine and this is a group called r30.org. You have a global thresholds and allocation system. So scientists keep track of copper and this and that, how much there is, the growth of productivity, how much is fined regularly, da 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 da, and also the negative thresholds. For example, if you go under a certain level of copper, then people start stealing the copper, right? So that's like a negative. You don't want to go under that. And so I think we can have like AI helping us see clear in those limits, and then humanity can make agreements to stay within those limits, right? But within those limits, we are free. So rather than to have like rationing and world government planning, AI can help us to make context-based decisions, contextual-based decisions. So I think that's like a potential positive. So I have somebody I know is Austin Wade Smith, who wrote a fantastic book called Ecological Institutions. And he says the key today is to make the non-human visible to the human. Right. And again, I think AI can play a role in that. Like we need the bees, we need the the worms, the earthworms. There's like the whole web of life, right? And
Mhm. But do you really think that most of our problems are based on a lack of information? That if people just knew better, they would do better?
no, I agree with that, but it's part of it, right?
Yeah,
First
oh,
you
for
have
sure,
to
yeah.
know, and then we have to make some agreements
Mm,
to take that into account. And there is this Peter Pogani who says the three tasks of our next transition are extending the social contract to the whole world, so not just the West, but workers of the whole world, uh, making a new contract between humanity and nature, and third, stronger multilateralism.
mm,
So this is like the minimal program for the next transition,
mm,
what we need to achieve.
mm,
So we're not looking for a perfect society. We're looking for a livable society where
mm,
people can project themselves in the future, and we can give a lot of freedom to people. A pluralistic commonwealth. This was a 19th century socialist idea. A pluralistic commonwealth. It's not
mm,
just the state dictating everybody like in the Soviet Union.
mm,
It's a system where different logic can
mm,
play with each other, but they're guardrails, right? The guardrails that protect the working class, and now we should say the
mm,
web of life as well.
mm. And if you have 4 or maybe 3 minutes more of energy before you
I
go,
have, I
I
have.
think I asked this before, but I can't remember. So you in your earlier days were a Trotskyite and a communist, but you don't identify as that any longer. Why is that? And do you think that the things can be learned from that, but that needs to be
Well,
uh,
no, it's
a
because I
structure
think the
that's
working
from the
class
19th
story.
century or the 20th century?
No, I think the working class versus capital is the story of the industrial era,
Mhm.
and we already are largely out of it.
Okay.
So that story is simply not going to work anymore. We need a new story, and so I think I tried, and maybe it will fail.
Mhm.
Uh, but the story of the commons needs to be that new story.
Mhm.
I thought I would be a lot further after 15 years, but
Mhm.
I still believe that this is a better way to look at the world than as kind
So
of the old.
basically, that you think that the centraling of the labor capital contradiction or opposition was was historical to
Yeah, a way internal to
the
capitalism.
period of
To
industrialization,
capitalism,
and
the
now
industrial.
that the focus on that is missing too much. Is that?
Well, I can ask you the question: do you believe that there's still a chance that the working class will rise up and organize in socialist parties and
No.
take over political? No, right? So
No. No,
that's it.
no,
So,
and yeah.
so
But I just wanted to ask you because for where I'm at is that I think that since we're still to the degree that we're still in something that if we get into like what quantity of interactions or parts of the world can be, I still think that for lack of a better word, we live under global capitalism.
yeah,
Um, and that I think that in the Marxist tradition, not stopping with any like in 1900, where when Marx died or when Lenin died or any of that stuff. I think that I find the work of David Harvey and Nancy Fraser types very, very, very important to bring to bear to understand the current situation in terms of the contradictions and the crises and the opportunities and all that stuff. However, yeah, do I think that that I've come to see it as a bit kind of elitist and condescending also that if this false consciousness type of idea that but for the media or but for the CIA,
yeah.
the proletariat would become a class in itself and would do all the things that professional Marxists or socialists or communists
Yeah.
think they should do. I
No,
think
so
that
I
that's a
agree with
problem.
you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I agree with you that,
Yeah.
like the kind of analytical tradition of
Mhm.
class analysis and materialist analysis, it still has a lot of value.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I think is like the geography.
Right.
What I mean is like the
Just
geography.
like Lacan and Freud,
yeah.
you can still use them.
Mm-hmm.
But do I believe that 100% of what they said is right and necessary? No.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I think about Marx. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you cannot see after Marx, you cannot see the world like you looked at it before Marx.
Mm-hmm.
So he's part of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that analytical clarity, I think it's a lasting legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I think we really need to renew our
Mm-hmm.
Our way of looking at the world. And
no, and I think that we very much live under the dictatorship of capital, by meaning like the necessities to keep capital accumulation going at various scales, and to get through the obstacles to that, or whatever, that type of thing. But in terms of replacing so we do need to figure out how to get beyond that. But I am not a believer in this. I find the Stalinist revival kind of I've gone from it giving it the benefit of the doubt to now finding it just an object of analysis for my political psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
Because the castration complex is it's a lot.
Yeah.
But in terms of the critique of capitalism and David Harvey for me is a goat. I find him very useful because I did my master's.
So you have to explain to me what goat means.
I did my master's.
I see that's coming up everywhere, so what is the goat? I kind of missed that. So everybody's talking about the goats.
The what?
So what does that mean when you say he's the goat? What does that mean?
Oh, greatest of all time. And I don't really mean that like it's good. Yeah.
I was in Ecuador.
I'm 90 years old, and he wrote a book called The Limits to Capital. And when was that? 1980 something? I don't know when it was.
I used to read him long time ago.
Yeah. And I find his he has this conceptualization of capital that's been that he's been working on for 50 years or something. I find that very useful.
Yeah, I just want
to say that he's like 92 years old or something, and probably his final book is coming out this month called The Story of Capital, and it's kind of him revisiting the limits to capital from 2024 or 2025, whenever it is that he wrote it. And so I'm really looking forward to that. So I thought, I think that's always the thing. But the more I read into the political history and this kind of getting into this kind of the Marxist-Leninist revival or Stalinist revival that I think is mainly online, but that I'm sure there's some groups.
Yeah,
I just find that it's too culty. It's too culty, and it's all about
academia. It's within academia. Yeah. It's social media. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I just find it's all about it's like I'm like any organization that has that many people on its blacklist or has to keep on creating categories of people to blame and purge. I think you're going to end up with limiting returns and just eating your own tail and being paranoiacs. I had to learn that. Yeah. So you can an old dog can learn new things or a new perspective.
You're still young. You're still young.
Oh my God, no. But it's like people don't want to allow it. It's like, oh, but you have this person on.
So I just want to thank you for your contrarian voice, and for daring to say what a lot of people just including me wouldn't have the balls to.
Well, thank you, Michel. But it's also just the fact that I figure, one of the things that I can benefit from academia not working out for me, or me not working out for academia, is the freedom to say what to write
Yeah.
and say what I want within reason, of course, because it's like I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about being fired or canceled or purged from a journal because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just a node.
Yeah. And I've been through that already, so
Yeah, yeah.
this is
Anyway,
it.
Michel, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just want to end with yeah, what in terms of on your radar, what thing that do you find the most disconcerting about the global moment that we're in, or the planetary moment that we're in, and one or two things that you find the most that you can hang your hat on to motivate your
So,
activity?
so I think in the short term, it's going to be really bad very fast. So I tend to believe the predictions of Peter Turchin and Ray Dalio, and this is based on kind of cyclic analysis, and there's a lot to back it up. So I do believe that the coming 2 years, maybe as fast as that, are going to be like world shaking. I think there probably will be a crash in the US with the dollar and stuff like that. Iran, you know, that could go south very quickly. I was listening to Scott Ritter. He says, they have all these new missiles, and if they touch a ship from the US might well react with nuclear, because they can't allow their big ships to be destroyed like that. So who knows, right? This can happen in a very short time span. But the thing is, there's no alternative. There's nothing ready.
We have to
So
go through it. Yeah.
yeah, so my eyes are on all these patient workers that are, leaving the cities, creating, going back to the villages, creating new forms of agriculture, try to build community. Um, yeah, I know it's not so exciting, maybe,
No,
but
but
I
we
think,
were talking about this on the phone the other day, and I have three kids. The youngest one's 12 and the oldest one's 19. And I keep on telling them, like, learn a trade.
yeah,
It would be farming or horticulture or carpentry or plumbing or building or just, something. I would really encourage you
yeah, yeah,
guys
yeah,
to learn a trade.
yeah. Or,
So I'm hoping it
or
sinks in.
engineering, I think is
Engineering, yeah,
probably go.
retrofitting, all this stuff, because
Yeah,
if I think that you look all around, at least where I'm at, and in the States from my vantage point over here, there's a lot of need for investment and infrastructure and
yeah,
housing and all kinds of things. So I tell my kids, I'm like, once the powers that be get the head out of their butt or have to get their head out of their butt, I don't see any other way. There's going to be a lot of investment in that. So if what you're interested in and what you're willing to do is talk linked into that, I think you would have a nice you know
right.
work life. But we'll see if they listen to me, and I don't know, maybe all
Yeah,
will come to an
let,
end and
let
we'll
me
all be
just number
foragers.
you. On the right side of the spectrum in the US, there's a number of books which have been published, like analyzing, the 50 or the 100 jobs that supported families for the last 200 years. Roofers, bricklayers, plumbers, carpenters. This okay. And so they're creating new types of schools. Like, there's a group I really like. It's called New Polity. They're conservative Christians with a strong radical social. So they read even Illich and Schumpeter, and so they're for the social doctrine of the Catholic Church, which is about social justice. So they combine those two, and they create schools like Saint Joseph the Worker. So it's a 3-year program. You go in. First year you pay something, you learn a trade. The second year is already free. You already start working, and so it's apprentice, fellowship, and master. And then you come out, and you know your trade, and you're already earning money the third year. But at the same time, they learn the classics. So you're working class, you know a trade, but you're reading Thomas Aquinas, and from the high tradition.
Mm.
No, seriously, I think this is great.
Mm.
This is how people should be educated. I think we are over mediated,
Mm.
of course, including myself. And so to be, we need education, age appropriate education where children, reconnect with farming, with agriculture, with growing,
Mm-hmm.
and then with doing and making, and then with abstraction and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But not the other way around, where you have a 4-year-old kid who is already, playing Minecraft. And so in Germany they had this test where they asked children in primary school to draw cows, and 70% of them drew pink, mauve
Oh, from the
cow
game. Yeah.
from the I guess Leo advertising or something like that, right? I mean, that's like unbelievable. And then they have this study in London that the parents, the average time that the parents speak with their children, with a clock, right? This is an objective study, 7 minutes per day.
Mm.
Wow. This
Yeah.
this kind of society is not that's not like long term.
No, you wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Okay, Michel, I know it's late there. Thank you for joining me. Maybe we will do Michel's top 3 book club segment. I think that would be great.
Yeah,
I might
last,
I might
you
ask you
share
for that
my,
offline. Like, what are the 3 books that you would recommend everybody should read with on this topic? And then
if you
we'll
may
go
share
over 3
my
months.
last Substack article, which has like 6 books.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like off the cuff. They're like not the normal books I would recommend, but they're all fascinating books that I share in this article.
Well, and we can discuss offline what book we think would be the most fun for us to discuss together. Anywho, but be interesting for others. Although,
Yes.
just you and me is enough. Okay, it's enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Merci beaucoup, Michel.
With pleasure.
Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care, my friend, my
All
virtual
right.
friend.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that was Michel coming on to discuss, I'm too small now, the end of the world as we know it, but he feels all right. It's going to be difficult, but don't despair. Commons are being developed all around, and that's something that we can hang our hat on that can hopefully get lots of us through the next these perilous times. All right, please do like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.